too many in? Because then they steam instead of roast. But
I think, no, we got a good number here.
These are socially distant.
Socially distant veggies. There we go. I think they're rocking it.
Hey everyone, welcome to Clinic to Kitchen, that show where we encourage our practitioners at North Olympic Healthcare Network to hang up their stethoscope for a while and pick up a spatula and do a little dishing and demonstrating about health and food, and in our case, budget. So really looking at how to make food affordable and yummy and healthful. Today I'd love to introduce you to Tricia Gormley, our registered nurse at North Olympic Healthcare Network, who is in charge of, among other things, our diabetes education program. Tricia, are you ready to do a little cooking?
I think I am, thank you.
All right, let's get our masks and hit the kitchen.
All right, I'm ready.
All right. Well, welcome everyone to Clinic to Kitchen, that cooking show where we ask our practitioners at North Olympic Healthcare Network to leave their stethoscopes at work and pick up a spatula and talk a little bit about food and health and other good stuff about their work and the things they do in service to the patients that we have at North Olympic Healthcare Network. So today I'm with Tricia Gormley, who is our diabetes educator, among other things, at Melon, and maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that. And just a reminder, we're cooking all late summer and fall from this fabulous book, Good and Cheap, designed by a woman who wondered, can people really live on food stamps? Can people really live on basically $4 a day and eat well? And sure enough, she found that some really great healthful foods and a variety of foods are possible, and also came to realize that it's cooking skills and kitchen skills, not necessarily budget, that makes for good food. And we're going to demonstrate it today as well. But first, I was wondering, Tricia, if you could talk a little bit about diabetes in general and what are some of the guidelines, the importance of food. For instance, let's say I went to see my doctor and she said, wow, Lynn, you are on the cusp of type 2 diabetes. I need to have you go talk with Tricia Gormley and discuss your diet and things you can do to help keep that at bay, maybe even turn the tide of that.
Sure, no, definitely. So what your doctor is trying to tell you is that your body is not able to produce enough insulin to break down those blood sugars any longer, or it's becoming more difficult. And so it needs a little bit of help on your behalf in regards to maybe eating proper, healthy, nutritious foods, getting enough exercise, and be able to reverse the tide, as you mentioned. And sometimes people need just a little extra incentive and a little education and help on what are the proper foods to eat. And a lot of times we're looking at getting away from white breads, which can be a culprit. We're going to go into more whole grain, multi-grain foods, which allows your body to digest them at a slower pace, to have a more fiber content, and it allows the glucose in your body to excrete at a slower pace into your bloodstream. So, which is a very important thing. Also, we're looking at more healthy vegetables. These are going to be vegetables that are kind of like more non-starchy vegetables, where we're looking at like broccoli, cauliflower, cabbages, leafy greens, and these are all, again, wonderful fibrous foods that your body needs. They're full of water, and also allows that low breakdown of sugar into the body as well. So
Now,
yes.
I happen to be a potato lover.
Okay.
I didn't hear potato
No,
on
well,
that list.
you know, people can eat potatoes, but potatoes are like almost like white bread, almost. They have something called a high glycemic index. That means that when the body breaks down a potato, it brings the blood sugars higher into the body, so rather than slower. And so you can have a potato, but it's the portion size that you're going to be entitled to. So it is a vegetable, but it's going to be the amount of the potato. You know, it's not going to be this big, giant, baked potato, but it's going to be it's like a half of a baked potato. So, or a third cup of mashed potatoes. And I know everyone just loves potatoes. It's just a great comfort food. But what it does when it goes into your blood system, it increases the blood sugars. Your body produces insulin to bring down that blood sugar, but it's still going to make you feel hungry afterwards. It's just not going to give you that fulfilling effect as if it was something that had a lower glycemic index, so that takes longer for your body to digest. So this is where we start focusing on foods that are of a higher fiber content, and that's going to make you feel fuller longer.
Okay, I like that idea.
Yeah, we definitely do. So that's what, when you come to see me, we start looking at foods in a different way, and things that kind of help your blood sugars. We also look at, maybe ways that might help you lose weight. And then we also look at if you have to take medications, how those medications are affecting you. And, if you're a new diabetic, you might be able to reverse the process just by eating and by exercising, because exercising is another feature that you really need to look at and focus.
Well, I definitely am interested in turning that clock backward.
Okay.
And I am excited because you picked some things that I love. First of all, a roast chicken.
Roast chicken,
Who does not love roast chicken?
Yeah, this is a great protein.
Excellent, good, because I think, I've even heard this said, if you can roast a chicken, you can eat forever, you can wow every guest, and
definitely
it's just like a classic skill.
Yeah, it is a classic skill. It's almost like a Sunday home-cooked meal, practically. But it's an easy meal that you can have a lot of leftovers with, and you can share, what you don't eat that day into multiple meals throughout the week, into lunches, into the next day dinners that you can add into, and then you can use the carcass and the bones and everything into soups.
Wow.
So, it's a very versatile food item.
Great.
So are we set? Ready?
Shall we get started?
I think so.
Yeah. See our little chicken over here?
Yep, I have a nice little chicken. Actually, it's like about a 4-pound chicken. And the important thing when you do get a chicken, these could be frozen, these could be fresh. If they are frozen, you're going to want to make sure that they're fully defrosted. Best way to defrost the chicken is to let it sit in your refrigerator. That's the safest way to defrost it. It's with the chicken. Sometimes there might be a neck or gizzards stuffed inside the cavity, or sometimes in the back. So that's a good idea to rinse these out and make sure everything is taken out. Sometimes there might be a neck attached right here, and you'd probably want to cut that off. Okay. And you can save that and the gizzards for a soup or something, or to make a chicken broth, and that you could use for a recipe another day. You can always use scissors to cut off excess fat, so that you don't have that, splattering, and to have that as part of the meal. Sometimes you might still find feathers still attached to it. If you do, you can just pull those out. It just means it just wasn't completely plucked when you got processed the chicken. So that's the main thing, is just making sure your bird's nice and clean. We're going to be using a roasting pan today. Right here is a roasting pan that we're going to be setting the chicken in. This allows the juices to drip away from the chicken. If you do not have one of these, it's okay. You can always use some vegetables you can set down. So you can put some carrots or celery or something to set the chicken on to use as a natural roasting pan.
Just to get it off.
Just to get it off. Otherwise, if you don't have one, that's perfectly fine. You can just set a roasting pan down, and just stick the chicken in. The chicken's just going to cook within its own juices. This way, it just allows it to roast away from it. So what I'm going to do before I set the chicken in, I always do this with my birds. I always set the wings behind the chicken. You just kind of fold them back behind. It just folds them in. Otherwise, you kind of got a floppy wing.
Oh, no floppy wings.
No floppy
Do
wings.
not want floppy
And
wings.
you can do this with your turkeys and whatnot. And so here our wings are all set. And so it's just going to stay tucked in.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
Okay, so with our bird, we're going to massage this bird with some, exactly, right, with a little bit of butter. Thank you, Lynn.
Oh, it's just like a little bird massage.
Yeah, exactly. So you're just going to massage the whole bird with some oil. And this is going to, and if you don't want to do butter, you can use extra virgin olive oil or canola oil. That's what I would recommend from a diabetes educator viewpoint. But the cookbook here is suggesting butter. But this is going to provide a great flavor and taste. So you just massage the bird. And this is going to allow it to brown very nicely in the oven. And speaking of the oven, you're going to want this preheated today to 400 degrees.
Excellent. Should we get the other side?
Yes.
I mean, everyone wants a back massage.
Oh yeah, who doesn't? Thank you. All right.
Oh, here's just a tiny bit more.
Oh, yep, let's use up all that butter.
Well, Leanne, the cookbook writer, does say, go with butter. It's so flavorful. But if you think other
oils, if you are with diabetes, there's sometimes other comorbidities that's associated with it, heart disease, hypertension. And when we're looking at high cholesterols, then we're also looking at fat content. And so we're going to want to look at lower fats. And so when we're doing that, we're going to be looking at unsaturated fats, and that's where olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, canola oils, even avocado oil are going to be safer oils for you to have. With a turkey or a chicken such as this, you can go up and underneath the skin and remove it, and that's actually going to help. And you can put some of that butter and oil and massage it into the chicken breast.
Wow.
And you can do that also with seasoning. So I'm going to go ahead and have you season.
Okay.
With some salt.
A little salt.
Perfect.
And how about
There we go. And
a local chef told me you can salt. Use, unless you have to cut back. Salt is a great.
it does bring out a lot of flavor. And for those who have hypertension issues, we always ask you to minimize your addition of salt. And then I'm going to have you with the salt and pepper, just do a little bit inside the cavity.
That's a great idea.
Perfect.
A little salt
and
too.
a little bit of salt in the cavity as well. Perfect.
Okay.
Great.
How about the back? Is it taking
The back, actually you could do
Oh.
a little bit there. That's perfectly fine. You don't want to over salt the bird.
Okay.
Okay, next thing is I'm just going to put this to the side. Actually, and we are going to add a cut lemon. So I have
Let me take this off for you.
all right, thank you. I'm just going to grab a paper towel real quick. Just to get a little bit of the butter and fat from the chicken off my hands.
That's good when you're going to pick up a knife to have nice.
Exactly, I want to
Clean
smooth
hands.
hands. So we got 2 lemon that we've cut in half here. We're just going to stuff that for seasoning into the side of the chicken. And then we're also going to put 2 cloves of garlic. To unclove a garlic, you just take the flat side of the knife and you're just going to go ahead and smash it.
This is the pro way to do your garlic. And
And
look
then-
how easy it is.
And it instantly comes out. And so we're just going to stuff that inside the bird as well.
Watch out for that knife blade when you do it.
Yep. So I'm just going to get one garlic on one side of the lemon and one on the other side. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick up the chicken and show you. So we have the cavity fill. We're just going to go ahead and lay our chicken on our roasting pan. And again, if you don't have one, you can just go ahead and set it in your roaster. And then we'll go ahead and we're going to set that in the oven at 400 degrees.
Okay.
It should take about that size of chicken for 4 pounds to cook for about an hour. You do probably want to check it about 3/4 of the way through with the meat temperature, and we're going to be looking at 165 degrees for that. And it's going to show that the bird is done, and you're going to want it to rest for about 10 minutes before carving. I'm just going to wash my hands real quick.
Great.
And we'll get on to the next item that we're going to accompany our chicken.
Wow. And always be careful around chicken, working with raw chicken. Just don't use the same cutting boards. Really clean your stuff because the chicken's going to be fine after it's cooked. But anything that a raw chicken has been on is
Salmonella.
Can be at risk of having some salmonella. And so that can really wreck a party.
That could wreck a party. So I got a nice little Clorox bleach here just to cleanse our area, make sure we don't have any issue.
Great. And now another classic, some roast veggies.
Yes, so this is
Wow.
you heard Lynn mention earlier about potatoes. Well, we do have some potatoes here, but we're accompanying it with a sweet potato, which does have a lower glycemic index, so it does take your body a little bit longer to digest it, which is a good thing. We're going to keep the peelings on our vegetables because guess what? Peelings have fiber, and so that's a good thing for you.
Great. Well, plus good flavor.
And good flavor.
And want me to cut anything? We can chop together.
We could chop together.
And
I'll get you a nice cutting board here.
Great.
There you are. So we're gonna, the good thing about vegetables is you're gonna want to cut them all about the same size so that they cook the same temperature and the same timing. Root vegetables such as our potatoes, you can use turnips, rutabagas, winter squashes. They are going to take a little bit longer to cook than, let's say, our non-starchy vegetables. And today we're going to be using onions and we're going to be using red peppers. But you could also add zucchini, broccoli, cauliflower into this mix. And so that would all kind of cook it a little bit lesser than our root vegetables.
Great. And you can do them in with 2 amounts of time, right? Because I know the cookbook author said the root vegetables, as you say, these starchy vegetables are going to take longer. And she said about 60 minutes, whereas these will take about 30. So can you get these going?
You sure can.
And at 30 minutes, then plop those in?
You sure can. You can definitely do that.
Okay, great. And I know that the cookbook author also says that you can put your veggies on a tray and then pour oil on them and salt them and pepper them, but I don't know about you, but I prefer to put them in a bowl and do that.
I do myself. That way I'm not getting my fingers all oily and messy, and then I know they're getting a very good mix of the oil. The cookbook does say vegetable oil, but coming from a diabetic background, I always suggest using canola and again extra virgin oil, olive oil. We're going to be cooking these again at 400 degrees, and that's an okay temperature in regards to these oils. Some oils cannot cook at a very hot temperature, but this is safe oil temperature for these oils.
Now, today we have extra virgin olive oil.
Yep, and that's going to be perfectly fine. It's a good time of year for onions. Right now, we have the sweet onions that are out there, the Walla Wallas, the Vidalias, and so those are all great.
I love Walla Wallas.
Onions, they're great antioxidants. So they're wonderful additions to add into any
Let's see.
And we're going to be adding garlic, and we're going to do whole clove garlics. And so when those cloves are roasting in with the vegetables, it's just going to really add a lot of flavor.
Now, what if I do my root veggies first, get them on here, and then I'll give your other veggies a bath in
You
oil.
know, we could definitely do 2 different baths with our vegetables.
This is great. Okay, now, how about a little of this? And then your pan will awake. When you and I talked before, you said maybe some
Some herbs are a great time. Herb gardens are in bloom right now, so it's a great way to spice up and add flavor to your dishes is with herbs without adding a lot of calories and adding a lot of carbohydrates. A lot of people add dressings and sauces that are unnecessary sugars, and by just adding some herbs and maybe some spices, it's a good way to be able to bring a lot of flavor to something without bringing a lot of unnecessary carbohydrates and sugars.
Great. Yeah. So all this has is a little olive oil, salt, pepper, and then should I put these in here and get them kind of oily too?
They would. That way they don't burn. Yeah. So a good way to get off the. You're just gonna want to, with the time, just kind of bring it right off. You don't want the willowy part of the thyme in there.
Ah. Great. Okay. How about rosemary?
Rosemary?
Should I chop those
you
or?
could do whole rosemary. That's perfectly fine.
Okay.
That
What do you
will
think? Ready to go in?
I think
or no,
so.
no. These aren't ready to go in. We're going to do this
We'll cook
first.
this for a half hour.
Okay.
After a half hour, or you would want to test it with your fork or knife to see, because these are sliced a little bit smaller. They probably wouldn't need a half hour, maybe only about 15 minutes. And then add the other vegetables on top.
Great.
Then we'll come back to them.
Great. And she said, I feel like we are like killing it, Tricia. She said, don't put too many in because then they steam instead of roast. But
I think, no, we got to get about a good number here.
These are socially distant.
Socially distant veggies. There we go. I think they're rocking it.
Going in. Tricia, you are so amazing. You are like a super multitasker.
Oh.
And it reminds me that, kind of what I've just become sort of, this is my mantra, that my new best friend, Leanne Brown, who's the author, says, really, it is about kitchen skills and cooking skills that can allow us to eat really well and inexpensively. And I think the way you're able to be planning and thinking seems to be a key to what you're doing. You're really, it's like you're mindfully planning what you eat.
Yeah, definitely. And that's something that I try to teach my diabetic patients about mindfully, like you mentioned, eating. And to be successful with diabetes is they have to plan. They can't not come home at night and not have something set out or know ahead of time as to what am I going to eat tonight, because that's where they kind of fall into these traps of eating too many carbohydrates, grabbing unhealthy snacks. That's not good for them. And so this is where I tell them, maybe with their grocery planning, let's plan out for the week, maybe when the grocery ads come out on Tuesday, when things are on sale, because I do find that budgeting is an issue with a lot of my patients, that they can't afford the right items or the things that are the cheapest or maybe the highly high carbohydrate items. And so, like, let's go with what's the protein on sale for the week? Let's buy that. What are the vegetables on sale for the week? Let's buy that. And it's okay to buy in bulk because you can prep and prepare and maybe freeze some of those items. So if peppers are $5 for $1, go ahead and buy those, and you can get those prepped, put into the freezer, and you can add to your dishes later in that week or maybe later in that month. So it's all about planning and preparing. Also about how they shop in the grocery store. They need to go more around the perimeter, where we're looking at more of the whole foods, the vegetables, the fruit, the protein. You're going to find a lot of the dairy is going to be on the outside as well. Granted, the bakery is on the outside, but we try to not have them go into the bakery area. If they do, then we start talking about whole grains, the whole wheat foods and whatnot, what they need to do and how they add that into their diet. Yeah. So it's all about planning. Also snacks, what are the healthy, appropriate snacks that they should have, and maybe when they do bring home their groceries, and then we make snack packs, maybe a portion size is a huge portion of diabetes, is having the right amount of portions that they need to have. And so maybe a snack pack of maybe grapes, of cut up cantaloupe, cut up fruit, because a lot of times they might love fruit, but they indulge in too much fruit. Fruit's a good thing, but there's a lot of sugar in it, as long as you just stay within the portion size. Or cut up bags of fresh vegetables. People are like, oh, I like my veggies, I love celery, I love cucumbers, but then they said it just goes to rot in my fridge. Yep. But if they just have portions sized out that they can just grab and go, then that's what we try to encourage, or give them quick recipes that they can go to. So speaking of recipes, let's get going on our next one.
Make some green beans.
We are going to make some green beans. So we have some spicy green beans that we're going to be doing today. These are a non-starchy vegetable on our diabetes food plan. So we have some, we have our roasted vegetables already going in the oven. We have our protein, our chicken, and now we're going to be having some green beans. So we have some snap green beans that came from the store. These are great. If you don't have these, you can use frozen green beans. So Lynn is adding some oil to the pan right now. The book calls for vegetable oil. Again, I go for the canola or the extra virgin olive oil. So you're just going to go ahead and coat the pan. When you have your green beans, they're going to be, if you get the fresh ones, they will have tips on the end. You can cut them or just snap them off. And you're just going to put them into bite-sized 1-inch pieces. And so here we have a bowl full of pieces. And we're just going to go ahead and set it into the pan. And what we're going to do is go ahead and, this is called sauteing. We're going to saute these and for about a minute. You're just going to let them sit in there all by themselves.
All by themselves.
All by themselves, and they're going to let them get a little green, absorb the heat. And we're going to let those cook. We're going to be adding some flavor to those today. We're going to be adding some garlic. We're actually going to be adding some water because this is going to allow them to steam up. We're going to be doing some soy sauce, and we're actually going to be using something that's called sorbet chica. Actually, it's just a chili paste. So that's all it is. So you can buy that in when you go down the. Thank you. There's all different varieties out there, but you can get a chili paste to add in, and that would help with flavor.
Yeah, and you know what I found, but I find this in a lot of cookbooks. The author will say, try to find the chili paste called sambal oelek. It's commonly available. Well, it's commonly available in New York City, but it's not really commonly available. So I went to McPhee's Grocery, which has a variety of foods from other countries. And I didn't find the exact one that Leanne likes, but I did find one that's got a little spice in it, a little spiciness. And I think it's going to be really yummy.
Yep, and that's perfectly fine. And you can use any of the chili spices actually that are out there. You can use this one. You can get it at Safeway. You can get it at SARS.
Okay, but it was fun to check out all those foods from all around the world.
That is fun. And SARS has a big variety as well. So any type that says chili paste. So I'm going to go ahead and it says add my garlic. Okay, so we have diced garlic here. And this is just 2 cloves that I smashed with the blade of the knife, and then I just diced up really nicely. And then we're gonna be adding some of the
A little bit of this, which
little
is
bit of the
soy sauce.
So this is gonna be your salt. You don't need to add any other salt. And then this is gonna be our chili paste. We're gonna be adding that.
Okay, and then it says give that 1 minute and watch those beans turn
Bright green.
bright green.
Yep, and so this is gonna give a lot of flavor. Our kitchen is just smelling beautiful right now.
Ah, and then
And
after
I'm
a
actually
minute,
gonna
whenever you're ready.
I'm gonna do the water right now because our pan is a little on the warm side.
Okay, great.
And
You
so as soon
are
as the water
amazing.
evaporates, it is a done deal. So your green beans are gonna be done. They're gonna be nice and tender. And so this is gonna be a side dish to our meal.
Yum. Oh my gosh, this whole meal is gonna be excellent. And I'm gonna add our watery vegetables to our
Okay,
starchy vegetables.
there you go. So she said watery, that's non-starchy, and they are kind of watery.
That was not the technical term, but you know what I mean.
I totally understood what you're meaning.
Oh, good, good.
So we actually are gonna be doing a dessert today too.
We can have a dessert.
We did to have a dessert. We're gonna be rounding this out. So as I mentioned earlier, buy excess fruits and vegetables and you can freeze them. So we have bought some melon. And so we're gonna be doing a sorbet. And this is gonna be with some non-fat yogurt, vanilla, and some frozen melon. And today our melon's gonna be some cantaloupe. So
Yeah.
actually when you can buy cantaloupe when they're like 3 for $5, that's an awesome buy. Pick it up because you can freeze that melon, and actually just eating like frozen grapes and frozen melon, it is a wonderful sweet treat all by itself. And so when you have a craving for something sweet, especially as a diabetic, sometimes you do crave something sweet and we're like, stay away from the sugar. This is something that you can definitely have.
Great.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and turn off our green beans. The water's all absorbed, and these green beans are gonna be ready to eat with our dinner, or Sunday brunch, or whatever you decide to have this with.
This is gonna be so good. Woo! I cannot wait. Okay, yeah, so the fast melon sorbet, that's on page 173. We're gonna rock it. I got some musk melon
Oh, okay.
for this.
Muskmelon.
Yeah,
All right.
let's. And we've got 2 cups. Oh, can I say something? Little something about this fabulous machine, a blender. I got this blender in a thrift store. And fortunately, it was, not well used, but may I just say, super, super sharp, so be very careful. And always make sure that this rubber gasket, first, it goes like this, in this order. The bottom, the blade, the gasket, the glass. And you know what happens if you don't put the gasket right next to the glass?
It might leak.
It might leak. It could very well leak. Yes.
Good.
So that's a thing for me. I think I've had it happen too many times.
All right. So we are going to add. We have our
melons.
Our melon, which is frozen, 2 cups. We have a ½ cup of our yogurt, ½ cup of non-fat yogurt. We have some, either you can use lime juice or vanilla. And it calls for sugar because we're diabetics today. We are going to be using a sugar alternative. We're going to be using some agave. There are other type of sugar alternatives as well. And, actually we're going to make this without adding it. And we're going to see what it tastes like to see if it's sweet enough. Because the melon might just be, because when fruits and vegetables get overripe, and we're mentioning putting it in the freezer when it's overripe, the sweetness level goes up.
Yeah.
And the sugar levels go up. So, we might not even need this as a sweetener.
Okay.
So that's our goal today, is to see maybe we can have a dessert without any added sugar.
Okay.
if we need to add some sugar, we'll go ahead. We can add a little bit of the agave to see how that works. Now, when you use sugar substitutes, sometimes there might be a freezing difficulty. So if you're making like homemade ice creams or something, definitely you're going to need to experiment because some of them might not be able to cook. So that's something that's out there. Some of them don't freeze well. They might not freeze completely hard, or they might be in a kind of like a soft frozen consistency. Yeah. All right, I'm going to, just because it's frozen melon, I'm going to do the yogurt first, so there's something soft on the bottom to blend into something hard.
Yeah.
And
That's a gigantic
I could,
spatula.
yeah,
You want to use that?
yeah, if you could.
Yeah.
Thank you. So it's going to get loud a little bit with our blender.
I'll take that.
Thank you.
And get that out of the way.
Okay. Let me go ahead and add our little bit of beautiful vanilla flavor. And then I'm going to just do some of this, not all of it at once, because that's going to help blend it. And then we'll do a little bit more. Just to see how you don't want to overwhelm your blender.
Ah,
That's my thought.
yeah. I mean, what's worse than an overwhelmed blender?
Exactly. I don't think it would blend.
So,
let's see here.
yeah, there are a million options. How about, well, let's start with grind.
Okay.
Push that, and then you can turn that. Wants to do it.
Thinking about it. All right. So I know as you get higher. About it.
Yeah. That must be some hard melon.
Yeah, and if it's really hard or too frozen, you might have to just kind of let it sit out and defrost just a little bit. But we'll see what we can get.
Hey, I have an idea.
Yeah.
Why don't I bring out, because it's almost time to bring out the other things,
Yeah.
and then I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned it, and you said it was really important, that the little something about portions
That
you
is
said
so
that was
important.
important.
It is hugely important. So we have where with our meals, we always, just to help with portion size, we always talk about starting off with 9-inch plates. The American plates have gotten larger, and a lot of our food portions have gotten larger. And so we're trying to bring the portion sizes back down again. And then this is where having a smaller plate helps you control your portion size. So I remember earlier in the session I mentioned where potatoes would be okay with about 1/3 cup. Well, this is where the portion size comes into play. If you have a big, giant 12-inch plate, it doesn't help having just a tiny little portion of potatoes on the side. You're going to feel more hungry because you're not seeing a lot on your plate. So if you bring your plate to a smaller size, about 9 inches, then you're going to be doing well. So today we have a sectioned out plate where our protein's going to go in one, our carbohydrate, which is going to be our roasted vegetables, in another. Mm-hmm. And then the other half, this is where we're going to want your non-starchies. So you think of your our green beans, our salads, things along that line. And then this is where, because there's not as many carbohydrates, it's less amount of sugars that are going into the body, because you can kind of fill up on the non-carbohydrate items for your body.
So good for, you mentioned maybe sometimes losing weight. I mean,
yes,
the fuller
exactly.
you can feel, the more satisfied. It seems like the easier it is to lose some weight.
For sure. So look at this. Our vegetables are done.
Okay, and remember these guys?
These are our garlics.
Let's see. Well, and our author suggests taking the skin off now, right?
Right. So
And
she
making a little paste.
She did mention that. So she said,
so,
go ahead and, yep.
I'm going to take that skin off. And this one too. And, ooh, you know what? Would it be okay to
We
say,
could melt some butter.
mix this with a little butter? Okay.
Yeah, so I can put that in the microwave for a second.
Excellent. This is so soft. I'll bet you this garlic is super yummy and sweet and not too hot. I'm gonna guess. Let's see. I'm just gonna mash this up a little. This is gonna be super tasty. Okay. What if I just
right in
do
there?
it right in there?
Yeah, that's going to be really delicious on our vegetables.
Ooh.
Are you going to want this big bowl?
Yes, that would make
Alright.
it even easier.
I will go ahead and start taking the vegetables out of the pan.
Okay.
Oh, those are just beautifully roasted. They have a nice variety.
Yeah, I really like how the author said that even you don't want to over steam veggies, you don't want to over saute them, but roasted veggies that are even a little over roasted are still super yummy, and so fear not if they're not al dente. And who wants to eat an al dente potato anyway, right?
And these are great. If you have leftovers after your meal, you can save these for lunches. You can put them in, you can make little like lettuce tacos with them. So that would be a good way to do that. So I'm going to mix this up. Thank you for making that beautiful garlic butter paste. And so this is just going to add a beautiful flavor. And I would hold off on doing any extra seasoning with salt and pepper until it's on your plate. That way you're not overindulging salt and pepper with someone else. You might not need it. Oh, that just looks beautiful.
I want to eat that so much, but I know dessert awaits us.
Dessert awaits. So technically, because this is a starch, you'd only want about a third cup. So that's only going to be a portion.
All the more reason that it should taste really satisfying.
That's right. Yeah, that's where you're going to be using those herbs. So I'm glad we used that basil, or not the thyme and the rosemary.
Yeah.
So there's one part of our meal. Woo. I'm going to go ahead and dish up my green beans.
Okay.
Because these are a non-starchy. Cooked green beans would be about a half cup. And then for about 5 carbs. These starchy vegetables are about 15 carbs. And so we usually roughly recommend about anywhere from 45 to 60 carbs for like a dinner or lunch meal for an individual. So right there would be 5, 15, this is about 20. Protein is usually free. There's no carbohydrates in the protein, so that's a good thing. A lot of times I tell people, you know, double duty the non-starchies. The greens. You know, and since we don't have a green salad, you can probably have two helpings of the green beans. Oh, because then that's going to make it 25 carbs right there. Wow. And then so that's a 25 carb meal.
That looks good.
And then we would add our chicken.
And then, but we're still letting our chicken. What did you say? Sit and
rest.
Rest.
So that's going to allow the juices to absorb into it. Okay.
Great. Well, what if I set that there and we return to our melon? Do you think maybe it's...
I hope.
Okay. While we took that little brief interlude to take some time with the noisy blender, I also cut some yummy chicken.
Beautiful.
So far, I think eating with diabetic concerns is not going to be a problem for me.
I don't think so. No, I think it's beautiful. Just one more spin.
One more.
There we go. I think we have our sorbet. Now this is a serving of
a fancy bowl. Ooh.
So So this is a serving for 4, so I want to keep that reminder out
Oh.
there for everyone eating. We did not add any sugar to it.
Ah, right. So
I would say
might. Oh, we're just gonna have to try it, aren't
just
we?
gonna have to try it to see.
Excellent. This is another fun day at work for us, isn't it? Mm. Mm. Mm.
Well, I don't think that needs any sugar at all. I think that would be too sweet.
That tastes like something I get at 31 Flavors.
That is really delicious. That is great.
And now our author said you could put that in the freezer and use it just like the ice cream. Scoop out some.
Scoop it out.
But how much are you gonna let me have?
You know,
A fourth
of what's ever there. So I'm thinking it's probably a half cup. It's going to be your serving, my friend.
Okay.
Oh, she's ready to be served.
So
she
let's see.
I think we used our half cup for. So I guess you can do 2/4.
Well, here's a 2/3, so it would be less than this.
Less than that.
I know. This will be like a psych trick for me. Here's a 1/4, but I get 2 of them.
You get 2 of
Because
those.
2/4 is 1/2, right? This is going to be so good. So good.
Oh, that's actually a nice serving.
Oh my gosh. This is excellent. Oh.
Excellent.
Wow. Okay, so this is amazing. I mean, you've given me so many great tips too for other snacks and meals, and I'm thinking about mindful purchasing and eating. And then this looks quite satisfying.
I think that would be a very satisfying meal. Now, I gave you extra green beans, and so we said this was a 25 carbs. And with this meal, so we had the yogurt and we had the cantaloupe. The cantaloupe serving would be about 15. So we're looking at about 45 carbs total with this particular meal.
And if I get some exercise, I beef up my walking.
Yeah, beef up your walking. I would suggest have a after dinner walk, and then that's going to allow your body to metabolize the food a lot faster and allow the sugars where they're supposed to go into your muscles. And so, great meal. Great plan.
This is really encouraging to me. I think I'm going to be able to do this.
I think so.
Well, I'm going to put this back in the freezer because I definitely want to keep it. And that's not the freezer. Here we go. But don't leave. Don't leave. Because I was just wanting to maybe ask you a little bit about, maybe a little bit about yourself.
Oh, sure.
Well, and also if you're willing to come back on the show for another episode, because I'm liking this. I'm curious to know how you decided to become a diabetes educator, a nurse. What inspired you? What inspired you?
All right. Yeah, so I've been a nurse for about 6 years. So it's a new career for me, but I've always loved the healthcare field. I was always involved in servicing community, and as part of that, I saw that there was a need for healthcare individuals. So I thought that was one way I could go back and reinvent myself and be an individual that can help the community. And then while doing that, I knew that there was a nurse educator in the community, but I knew that they were going to retire someday. And I thought that was a niche that I could do. I had a father-in-law who was a diabetic who didn't really follow the rules of diabetes very well. It was really troubling. And so I thought, I love to educate, I love to teach people.
You're a great teacher.
And I thought that was one way that I could help the community. And so finally working my way that way, and I presented it to my employer, and they thought that would be a good idea as well. So that's kind of how I got my way here. That I thought this is one way I can make a difference to patients and to the community. And so here I am.
I love how you are making it so that things that are really just about my lifestyle, as that person that just got a diagnosis of pre-diabetes, it's really about my lifestyle and changing things that I can do in quite doable ways.
Right. It's about the person and their wellness. It's what they can do themselves. Not so that's how I present it and how they can approach it. It's not telling them this is what you have to do. It's incorporating and becoming a caring individual and asking them, what do you want to do? How can I help you get to this particular goal? And so it's having their input and their cooperation. And otherwise, if you're telling someone to do it, it's like telling someone to, go do this and go do that. They're going to be a little bit hesitant, not really wanting to do it. And so I think that's the most important feature is, as being a nurse and being an educator, is helping them reach their goal. And sometimes it takes multiple attempts and to get there, and just to listen, but eventually, it might sink in.
One thing that I wondered as you were talking, because you seem to have this kind of encyclopedic mind around the number of carbohydrates in different things. So you're going to help me in my own journey of good nutrition to find ways to do this. I mean, you're going to help me with finding those places online that give me the carbohydrate contents of these things?
There are many apps that are out there. There's one that we usually send patients to called Chronometer. It's a free app that some of our clinicians use. It's either for a smartphone or for the desktop. That's why I like it. It allows you can take pictures or do a scanned code of items, so it tells you immediately. So if you're like eating a Tillamook yogurt, it'll tell you instantly how many grams of sugar, how many carbohydrates, how many calories is in that particular item, and it'll keep track for you for the entire day. It might not go into each meal, but it will tell you, how much you've had for it. It'll keep a tab, and it'll also tell you, how many minerals. So if you're trying to keep track of your calcium levels for the day, folate, iron, if you're trying to keep up, if your protein is something that you're trying to have an abundance of, or fiber. I've talked multiple times today about fiber. The average American gets about 16 grams of fiber, where we should be at anywhere from 20 to 35 grams a day. Men should get more fiber than women a day, actually. And we are not meeting those goals at all. You can keep track of your hydration on it. So it's a great tracker, and it's a great tool to get someone started at looking at their nutrition and knowing what they're eating. And once you get started, then you probably don't need to go back to the app, and it's just because you know instantly that, okay, if I eat a green bean, if I eat an egg, if I eat this, and if I eat that, you know how many carbs are in it, kind of exactly the portion size. If you're eating the nuts, is that really spicy?
No, I just don't want to. I don't want my microphone picking all this chewing out.
Okay.
No, it's perfectly tasty.
Very good. And so that's a good way for individuals. We use the American Diabetes Association as a great place for people to go, or even to go and get recipes at their foodhub.org. And this is where you can get one meal to multiple families, because that's where I find a lot of individuals who are diabetic cooking for themselves. I'm an individual. I can't cook for myself, or there's too much food. There's a lot of leftovers. So, how do we accomplish that or get to that? And then that's where a roasted chicken for a week, or even if you go buy a roasted chicken from like Safeway or Costco, how can we make that last an individual and put it into multiple different type of meals, stir fries or whatnot. And so those are some things that we have to, what are our challenges and how can we do that? Or how do I feed a family of 5 and still make it a diabetic friendly meal? where you
Yeah.
got kids who like multiple different things.
Mhm.
So it can be challenging for sure.
But most people like a good challenge.
Yeah, people do like a good challenge, and you know,
Yeah.
and it's all, you know, it's a lifestyle, and but it's a healthy way that, you know, you're going to do for yourself and you're going to do for your family, and it's a right foot forward.
Great. Ah, Tricia, thank you again so much for being here. And I need to get to work on that because it's melting. And just a heads up for anyone who's viewing in the future, we've got a couple really exciting things coming up. Next week, I'm going to be sharing a kitchen with the head of our behavioral health department, Christine Johnson. And she is going to be talking with us about comfort foods.
Ooh, yes.
And eating mindfully and other kind of coping mechanisms for living in a pandemic and kind of stressful times. And then we're going to have our dentist come in and cook up some great tooth and gum friendly snacks and beverages. So good things ahead. Remember to pick up one of these books at North Olympic Healthcare Network or right here at First Step Family Support Center. And you can also get it on Amazon. All right. Thank you. And remember, it's cooking skills, kitchen skills, not necessarily budget, that makes for great, great food.